Hey swingers, welcome back to another exciting episode of Tire Swing Gaming Plays Pokemon Brilliant Diamond.
He
I got it
almost
right this time.
he did get it right this time, and we put in a lot of fucking effort for you this time, swingers. So please subscribe. Our audio should be better after today.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys heard the last three episodes. The audio was pretty crap, especially coming from me specifically, me, Logan, not Seth over there.
Yeah, I'm better than him.
We're not 100% sure what the problem is, but we just spent the last hour, or what the problem was at the time, but we just spent the last hour working to make our audio better. So I'm sure you can tell it is better. It's still not perfect, but it's significantly better than it had been. You should see our setup. We have blankets hanging off window sills. We got blankets hanging on the wall. We got blankets sitting over chairs. We got pillows on the floor. We got Seth's mic in a cardboard box.
We really do. We went all out for you, swingers.
Because we love you. So love us back.
Yes, and no one else loves you, swingers. Only us.
Well, that's some abusive type shit to say. He's not wrong, but it is abusive.
It's only abusive if you let it be abusive. I would simply not be abused.
Ooh,
Also, hot
dang.
take, swingers, that was not okay of me to say.
Yeah, I could have told you that. Anyway, swingers, we're back. We're playing more Pokemans. You know how it go. We got our party. We got Sploosh. We're about to trade out Sploosh for. we're about to switch out Sploosh for your probably Dornus. We like Dornus.
Dornus is a good girl?
Dornus is a girl.
Dornus
You got it
is
right.
a girl.
Yep.
So, swingers, I have a tale to regale for you.
Seth's got a tail.
So, I'm sure I told you already what happened with my car and the axle getting a divorce.
That's good terminology for what happened.
Yes, so when I went to replace the axle, I cut the wheel speed sensor.
Like an idiot. I was there. I told him not to do it.
He did told me not to do it, and I did it anyway, and unsurprisingly, I lost my speed signal. No surprise there.
Yeah. Speedometer just stopped working. I think the odometer went out too, I believe.
The
right?
odometer did stop going up.
Which, a little bit surprising to me. I feel like the odometer should be able to rely on 3 wheel speeds instead of all 4, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I guess.
it wasn't a big deal though. I didn't care that much because at least with the speed, I could use a GPS to figure out how fast I was going. And I've driven that car for so long now, I could also just look at the tachometer and have a pretty good idea of how fast I was going. But no, that wasn't the real problem, swingers. The real problem is the gas gauge is also tied to that driver's side rear speed sensor.
Yep.
So when I cut that, the gas gauge was no longer reporting correctly, and it would start bouncing around like a whole quarter of a tank. So I thought I had no gas when I realistically had a quarter of a tank of gas, and it was just the worst.
Now, swingers, I am an engineer that does work on cars. That is my day job. It makes specifically the electrical systems on cars. So wheel speed sensors are something I deal with regularly. It makes no goddamn sense for the wheel speed for the gas gauge to be dependent on the wheel speed.
Like, the only thing I can think of is to get
BMW doesn't know what they're doing in their shit.
No, to get the range estimate accurate, you need to know how
But
fast
the
you're
range
going.
estimate is unrelated to the fuel gauge itself. Like, the range, your fuel gauge isn't a range estimate. It's how much fuel you have in your car.
Yes, but those things are lies.
No, the fuel gauge isn't. I know guys who work in fuel indication.
You know that for one brand.
Yeah, but the point is that I know how fuel indication also works, unrelated to the guys I know how it works, who work on. It works by you just have a bobber and a sensor, and the bobber gets lifted up and down by the fuel level in the tank, and the sensor measures the height of the bobber to determine how much fuel is in your tank. So the fact is, your wheel speed sensor, not only it doesn't make sense that it would be mixed in that system, it's also a very bad idea in general because without that, with the if you lose a wheel speed sensor, your fuel gauge should still work regardless. Like,
Yeah, you lose way too much information if you lose that one wheel speed sensor, and it is very specifically that one. I looked it up. So if you have an E39
that's a
chassis code BMW E39, mine's the 528i. But if you have the 540i, the 525, the 530, or the M5, don't cut the driver's side rear wheel speed sensor. It's bad news, bears. You will lose your speed signal, your odometer, your range estimate, your average fuel economy, and your gas gauge will be all wonky.
And the way Seth was thinking of it, like, is incorrect because your range estimate should depend on your
Speed.
wheel speed, average MPG, and how much fuel you have in the tank still. It shouldn't be the other way around where range engine or where fuel level depends on range estimate. That doesn't make sense. Now, if for some reason somehow the two sensors for the fuel level, because you have two fuel bumpers, right?
Allegedly, I do have two. There's a very specific term in the car world for what they are, and I forget what they are.
Probably dual fuel something. Anyway,
Fuel level sensor. There's a float. They call it a float.
Yeah, you have two fuel floats, and do you have a sensor for each float? Or
I believe I do have a sensor for each float.
Now, if somehow the float is on one of the floats is on the exact same circuit for some reason as the wheel speed sensor. If they're somehow in series with each other, which they shouldn't be.
Logan, I can hear the TV.
Oh, well, let's just turn that down. If they're somehow in series with each other, I can see that cutting one completely cuts the circuit off. So you lose energy to both.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't be in series to each other.
Yeah, they should be in parallel because that's how cars work.
Yeah, and we know for a fact you didn't blow a fuse because you didn't have to replace a fuse when you...
Yes. So none of this makes any real sense.
Yeah. Now, I'm not an electrical design engineer, Swingers. I'm an electrical test engineer. So I just test the systems. But that does mean I have to know something about how they function. And, well, let me tell you this. The engineers at BMW knew this was a problem when they released the car. And they knew how to solve the problem when they released the car.
Yeah, they did.
Somebody else told them no. Or they determined that it wasn't a major problem. Because if you lose... I can see them arguing if you lose wheel speed sensor because you lose ABS along with that, you'd be going to replace your wheel speed sensor anyways, so it's not that big of a, like, you shouldn't drive the car until it's replaced because you don't have ABS. So I can see an argument from the engineers saying, well, it's not a big deal then.
So,
but realistically, I would hope that the engineers we should have a solution for this problem anyways and not have this go out onto the market. And then the bean counters were like, well, that costs $3 per vehicle, and we expect to sell 250,000 of this chassis in this model year, so that's $750,000 just to replace this one issue that 1,500 people are going to run into in a course of a 15-year life cycle of a car, yada yada yada, not worth it for BMW. And I'm not gonna say that was the right decision because that's a safety feature, and you expend the cost. You when it comes to the safety features, you pay the cost regardless, in my book.
Yeah, and despite what the British seem to think, German cars seem to have dubious reliability. And PSA, Swingers, and this is for the mechanics out there, don't blame the engineer. It's not usually their fault. It's the penny pinching assholes up at the top of the chain. They're the ones that are the problem.
Trust me, Swingers, as a test engineer, when I run into a problem on these vehicles, or well, I don't test on vehicles specifically, but in the electrical systems that I test on, when I go to the test requester, you know, either the DNR or the feature owner, or whatever engineer lead maybe, most of the time they already knew the problem was there, and a solution is already being worked on. Now, conveniently these days, a lot of these are going to be software solutions. You don't have, but there are a lot of things where it's like, okay, well, we actually plan on changing the wiring up anyways before the next milestone. That was going to be one of the changes. It's very rarely I come to them with a problem they don't expect. And even when I do, you know, they work to figure out a solution, whether that gets implemented or not, there's a mix. There's a very large group of people that have to be consulted on how problems get solved because of just the way a company of the size I work for ends up working. You know, you gotta talk to the feature owners, the DNRs. You gotta talk to everybody whose system would be impacted by those changes. You gotta talk to the guys who, you know, control the money, make sure that, you know, we have it in the budget that's enclosed, because the budget's a lot of crap, Swingers. The budget's whatever it needs to be. We just pretend that there's a limit on the money supply. There's not. We can spend as much as we want. We're a major auto manufacturer.
Yeah, I'm looking at our audio levels here. We might have to adjust the game audio down a little bit.
Yeah, that was the one thing I was concerned about for this episode. If the game audio is a little too loud, let us know in the comments below. But we'll probably watch the episode before we record. A little bit before we record another one to determine if we need to drop that. Right now we got both our mics set to 50 and the game audio set to 27, which bothers me because it's not a multiple of 2 or 5. What are we even doing here, Swingers?
What if we drop it down to 22? I think that'd work out just fine.
I mean, we might not have to change it at all.
We might not have to, but I think we're going to have to drop it a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Anyways, we're going to be going in a cave here in just a sec, Seth, so we're just going to run to the Pokemon Center, heal up. We don't have...
How many Zubats are you going to kill?
As many as I run into.
Are there any Zubats in this game?
We already fought a Zubat, remember? Last episode.
I don't remember, actually.
We fought a Zubat last episode. It was at the very end
I'll take your word
of the
for it.
episode.
I've been a bad. I have not responded to a chat. Anyway, Swingers, electric cars are becoming more and more prevalent these days.
I can't wait to talk about what I want to talk about.
Oh, Logan has some input on electric cars.
So,
I want to talk. I'm actually very excited for electric cars, simply because they're a lot more convenient than gas cars when you really think about it. Because if you just can plug it into the house every night, what's your excuse, other than road trips, what's your excuse for ever running out of power? You don't have to worry about stopping at a gas station, like, ever.
Ooh, Swingers. Hold on. Rock Smash is a TM in this game. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Hold on. Do I even need to have a Pokemon know the move? Swingers, how do I make that display just completely disappear? I would like to know. That's a trainer. Anyways, so Swingers, I am a big fan of the idea of electrical cars because they'll cut the emissions of vehicles right in half, which is a great start. Now, to be fair, just so you know, Swingers, the goal of ending climate change should not be on the consumers. We are drops in the bucket compared to the big corporations that are actually producing
90% or more of global emissions.
Yes. You got things like freighters. Shipping alone is the biggest
polluter right now.
Yep. To be honest, cows are actually really bad as well. Their burps, as it turns out, not their farts, release a lot of methane, which is a very potent greenhouse gas. About 4 times more potent than carbon dioxide, if I recall correctly. So on that front, I'm just really... We're never going to get rid of beef because we're assholes. even though we could just replace beef with bison and get almost the exact same thing. So I'm hoping lab-grown meat is becomes a thing soon because it'll taste better, be more nutritious, and more environmentally friendly when it, finally comes out. Although there will always be a market for real beef because we're men and we like killing animals. Fuck that shit.
Yeah, no, just like there's a market for classic cars, which are pretty, but you wouldn't want to own one. For real. Have you ever driven a classic car? I have. They drive like shit.
Yeah. Anyway, so swingers. But EVs are coming out, and I've worked in my job at a major oil manufacturer. I do work on some of the EVs that they're working on producing.
I would love to hear you talk shit about whatever you're working on, but I know you can't.
I mean, one of the vehicles I'm working on has been announced, so like I could say some things about it, but like I still have to be careful because like there's a lot of stuff still not known to the public, so I can't just outright say everything about it.
Plus, you probably shouldn't say a brand name.
Yeah,
right?
I am avoiding saying a brand name altogether. Dude, should I catch you this week?
Dude, yeah, we want a rock dude.
Are we gonna implement our party?
Yeah, and we're gonna name him Rock Dude.
We'll come up with a name. I'm gonna see if I can just outright catch it with the Pokeball without doing damage. So I am super excited about EVs. Infrastructure for EVs is really starting to take off as well, so we'll be...
How in the fuck did you pull that off?
It was level 6. Trust me, it's like low-level Pokemon.
Wait, Logan, you could name your Geodude Gertrude.
We'll come up with a name.
But Logan, Geodude Gertrude?
How about...
I'm thinking... Logan... Are you gonna say Roland? You better not.
No.
Rocktrude?
Rocktrude.
Rocktrude! Alright, let's do it.
Yeah, okay.
Fine. I'll take this L.
Okay, so we got Rocktrude.
Rocktrude.
He's kind of low leveled. We'll put him in front for now. Sploosh isn't doing much anyways.
He's a sploosh. He doesn't do much.
But yeah, so EVs are gonna be nice, but the thing is, I don't know if you know this, Wingers.
Oh my god, that's a little Jidrin.
But I'm a free thinker.
Supposedly.
And unlike a lot of free thinkers who aren't, I absolutely hate Tesla Motors and Elon Musk because Elon Musk's a bad person and Tesla Motors treats his employees like shit. And as it turns out, a consumers report just came out just a week or so ago, and Tesla is the fucking bottom, literally the bottom of the barrel in terms of customer reliability. And wouldn't you know it, I knew that was going to happen. Tesla, like, about, what, was it a year, 2 years ago? They released a software to prolong the life cycle of a battery from, go from, maybe 5 years to 10 years is what they were claiming what their goal was. I don't remember the exact.
Yeah, that seems like bullshit.
But it decreased the actual range of the vehicle, very noticeably. So, and I'm not. When it comes to EVs, you do have to be careful with how you work the battery, because there are limitations. Like, just so you know, that's a lithium-ion battery.
Weighs a fuckload.
Well, that, but just so when I was in college, one of the classes I took was on batteries specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Lithium-ion batteries, they do alright to overcharge. The real problem is temperature, but as it turns out, for like lifelong, like to get the longest life out of the lithium battery, the least battery degradation. That's what you want is to keep the battery sub 50%, like 20 to 50%.
Really?
Yep. That is the best way to mitigate degradation of your batteries, your lithium ion. Now, other batteries like lead acid, probably, I don't know about NiCad or nickel metal hydride, The lead acid for sure you want to keep as close to 100% as possible to avoid sulfation. Is that the word, Seth?
Sulf. Because sulfur sulfating.
Sulfur builds up on sulfur within the battery is part of the acid. Builds up on the exterior of the battery, and
We're talking about lead acid, right?
yes, they use sulfuric acid, I think, generally. It builds up on the exterior of the battery and decreases the battery's
Voltage potential.
yeah, and how long it can hold the charge.
Yeah.
And that happens more the lower charge the battery is.
Yep.
Now you can kind of mitigate
Yeah.
that to an extent, but it's
I've
not
heard it.
perfect. But yeah, so that's what Tesla claimed they were doing, and maybe they are being honest. I can see that being technically true, but it did also decrease the range of the battery, and a lot of consumers were unhappy about that, which is understandable.
But we'll have to continue this conversation
I want to get through the door.
next time
On
Tire Swing Gaming.